If you're only on Facebook, apparently the internet has questions about that. Today we're breaking down posts, platforms, and perceptions, discussing different social media platforms, assumptions people make about them, and just some general thoughts on posting on social media. Thank you so much for tuning in to She's Probably Talking to Other Guys. I'm your host, Annie from the Banana Diaries. I'm so excited, as always, that you're here, whether it's your first time or you are an OG follower. Thank you so much for being here. Let's do a quick recap of last week. Last week was very special. It was the first guest episode of the podcast. I had one of my best friends, Jessie, here with us, and we discussed what life is like as a creator and some different highs and lows she's experienced, as well as just a little peek into her life. If you haven't tuned in yet, I would love for you to tune in. There's also some information in there about where you can follow her on social media. Just a friendly reminder, I am not a therapist, psychologist, or expert in human behavior. Everything shared here is based on personal experience, opinions, and a lot of conversations over coffee with friends. If you're struggling with something deeper, I always recommend seeking professional help in chatting with a licensed professional. This is a judgment-free, assumption-checking zone, so take what resonates with you and leave the rest. Every post on social media tells a story, and unfortunately, sometimes that story gets twisted by people's perceptions or just because people feel the need to twist your words around. But we're going to go through some of the different platforms, what I personally think about them, as well as what the internet seems to think about them. We'll be touching on some assumptions related to each individual platform we discuss, and then just some overall assumptions about posting on social media. We're going to start with Instagram, mostly because Instagram is my personal favorite. I genuinely just really love the way that Instagram functions. I think it would take a lot for me to name another platform as my favorite social media platform. My blog, The Banana Diaries, is on there, as well as my quotes page, Banana's Babes. I also have Shop the Banana Diaries, and She's Probably Talking to Other Guys is on there, and a few other pages that I'm really excited to bring to life. I love how, well, I don't know if I should say I love it. It's kind of creepy sometimes how my Discover page is quite personal to things that are going on in my life. So I do find that a little interesting. Obviously, I am a believer, I have to say, that my phone is listening to me for sure when it comes to my Discover page. I did love how I was on a Pedro Pascal trip on my Discover page. I don't know how it started. I really don't. But he was holding strong on there. He's still on there every now and then. But before, it was like almost every other post was about Pedro Pascal. But I love that it pulls up some quotes. I'm a big quotes sharer. I like to throw those in my stories. And then I just love to repost things that I personally think are really funny. I love to use my stories as a way to, I don't know that I would say show off more of my personality, but I do not take my stories seriously whatsoever. Sometimes there are some really wild and borderline savage posts that I reshare there because that's my sense of humor. That's something that, for whatever the reason is, I connected to. But I feel like my stories are a wild time. Sometimes I go through phases where it's just one quote after another because my Discover page is just full of them and I love them all. So I do go off on, I would say, some streaks, if we call it streaks, where it is a lot of content going into my stories that isn't mine. But I also think that that's a really fun way to engage with other accounts and to engage with other people. I like to share some posts that I relate to somehow, whether they're football posts or whether they're music, Sabrina Carpenter I throw in there, and then some of my own posts I'll put in there. I put a lot of shoppable links in there. I'm trying to think of all the ways I use my stories. I feel like I really use my stories a lot now that I'm sitting here naming everything. I like to be creative with it, and I want my page to be a place where there are a lot of different aspects to what I post. There's no way, and I know I'm a big never say never girl, but I will never be a one niche or one topic kind of account. There's just no way. And this is no judgment to anyone who is focused on one niche whatsoever. My personal feeling for my Instagram is that I really want it to be authentically me. And in order for that to happen, I am going to trickle in a lot of different aspects of my life, from humor to TV and movies, sports, fashion, beauty. Home and living is something that is starting to trickle its way in because I'm having a lot of fun working on some projects related to home and living. But it's all just a way for me to really, I feel like, incorporate a lot of different pieces of my life into one account in one place, one location, that I don't feel like the other platforms allow me to do. And I think that that's probably a really long answer to why I love Instagram, but there it is. Let's go through some assumptions that are popular on the internet related to Instagram. A popular assumption is that you're trying to look rich, you're trying to look skinny, I don't like that, or you're trying to be aesthetic 24/7. Personally, I mean, I can see where people are coming from with this. I think that I don't love the skinny portion, but I think that an example I would use for an assumption that people are trying to look quote unquote skinny is that sometimes you see posts where people say like Instagram versus reality. And I think that that in a sense does relate to that assumption, because some people will post photos where they are looking incredibly toned and they're positioned a certain way, and then they'll show reality when they relax. And of course, your body's relaxed, it's in a different position. But I don't really, I don't like it in the sense that you need to love yourself. And if you love yourself, it doesn't matter what you look like, because at the end of the day, you love yourself. And it doesn't matter what anybody else has to say about it. I am very big on this, especially being someone who has been like ripped apart for how I look growing up in the dance industry. Like, I am very passionate about this. You need to love yourself. And on days when it's really hard, you need to look in the mirror and still point out things that you love about yourself. When it comes to the being aesthetic 24/7, I definitely understand where this one comes from. There are so many posts out there where, yes, it is clearly about the aesthetic. If that is your thing, go for it. This is no judgment whatsoever. I personally love not really caring about what my background looks like, because that's me. I have zero plain white walls where I am. Like, it's just, it's non-existent. You will not find a plain white wall. When I see some posts and it looks like someone has zero furniture in their home and it's all clean and it's all white and it's just so perfect, yeah, I think it looks really good. But at the end of the day, that's nothing that you're going to find on my account, because that doesn't exist in my world. So if you see posts like that and it makes you feel bad for being messy, or it makes you feel bad for not having a clear white wall, everything pristine, you're not alone. I do definitely see that that tends to be something seen as aesthetic. I've had brands want to work with me, and then all of a sudden, when it comes time for me to send them their content and they're reviewing it, Then they ask me for a plain white wall and in a plain background. So my immediate question is, okay, you acted like you went through my socials. You approached me about working with me. Why would you approach me and want a plain white wall in the background when you've seen my content? But that's something that I think it exists for a lot of brands. And again, no judgment, but for me personally, that's not realistic in my world. Clean girl aesthetic. I'm trying to think of all the other ones because I don't pay attention to them. That's the thing. So I don't always know which ones they are. But there's so many names for different aesthetics that are trending. And again, no judgment to people who participate in them. I think it's cute. I think it's cool. I don't have the extra time to record a lot of stuff like that. Mostly because it's not necessarily where my brain goes to in the moment. But there is definitely an assumption that it's aesthetic 24/7, and you will find so many accounts that do prove that assumption to be true. And I don't think it's a matter of right or wrong. I think it comes down to what you want to post. But I am going to say this. If you feel like you have to post like that, you don't. If that's not what you want to post, don't post it. I think I made a joke to one of my friends. It was something about like, I'm going to use clean girl aesthetic as an example. I don't know that this was exactly the one, but I saw something about like goblin girl fall, and I made a joke. I was like, that's definitely more my vibe than showing up with everything looking perfect. I feel like I can relate to goblin girl fall more than I can relate to trying some of these other perfectly clean, put together aesthetics. There's an assumption about posting stories every day that you're either thriving or crying in private. As I mentioned before, I love posting stories, so I have no idea what you think of my stories, especially when I'm going through kind of, I would say, like a feral period where it's a lot of random content that I thought was fun, or my bikini photos mixed in, things like that. I post quotes, whether I'm thriving or whether I'm crying. I cried this morning and I posted some quotes, but I was thriving like an hour before I was crying and I posted some quotes. So for me, that assumption isn't necessarily true. I don't think my stories are related to my emotions. A private account, apparently the assumptions are that you are mysterious or you're maybe toxic. I don't really like that. First of all, I think that when you have a private account, maybe it's because you want to be on social media, but you don't want everyone seeing your life. This ties back into an episode about who gets a front row seat to your life. So personally, if you have a private account, I just assume that you just don't want everyone in the world to know your business. I wouldn't jump to mysterious and I wouldn't jump to toxic. If you do, okay, but that's not where my brain goes. Apparently, the opposite assumption is that a public account is an influencer wannabe. At the end of the day, I think maybe I see it differently because I do post so much on social media. You can post what you want to post. I mean, some of the silliest videos go viral, and it doesn't mean that you're an influencer wannabe. I literally, here's an example. I watched this one video of this little raccoon, and I did not know that I was about to have like a raccoon filled discover page. And now there are all these little raccoons all over my feed, and some of those raccoons have like over 10 million views. I mean, and it's literally videos of these little raccoons doing cute little raccoon things. Obviously, that's a public account, right? Like for some of these raccoon videos I was seeing, when I went to the page, I wouldn't look at this and be like, oh, they're an influencer wannabe. No, it's someone posting really cute raccoons. I'm going to use that as an example because those are public accounts, but I'm not going to look at a raccoon page and be like, these raccoons definitely want to be influencers. I mean, they influenced me into wanting to watch them. I will say that much because they were so cute. I think that also goes back to, she's probably talking to other guys. Actually, not. I am scrolling and watching these cute little raccoons on Instagram. So leave me alone. All right. Enough about my favorite platform. We're going to go actually into the platform that I have a love-hate relationship with, and it is TikTok. Let's talk about why I love it first. I love it because I find a lot of really fun audios on there. I love it because Shop the Banana Diaries has had a wild amount of success on there, and I absolutely love that that platform has enabled me to connect with all of you and to share some of my favorite products with you. So those are definitely, I would say, the two reasons why I love TikTok. Unfortunately, there are more reasons why I hate it. Let's talk about the main reason. I don't want to turn this into like a massive I hate TikTok train. I'm going to give you the main reason. So the main reason is that I get community violations all the time. I posted a photo that had my back showing in it, and I had a dress on. The dress was an open back. It was a little cute little polka dot dress from Ina Murata. I absolutely love Emily and what she's created with her brand. That is one of my favorite brands. And no, this is not an advertisement for them. And it was just my back showing. And then I got community violations because it was my back. I, as you know, if you follow me, post bikini photos. Anytime I post a bikini photo, I get a community violation. And then I have to go through the process of trying to get the video back on or get the photos back up again. There are people on TikTok, because I have seen it, who wear significantly less clothing. There are plenty of accounts that also post swimwear and bikinis. And I literally get violations all the time, anytime I try. I have even gotten violations on sponsored content and brand partnerships posting swimwear. Okay, I am tagging swimwear that is available for purchase on TikTok Shop, but I get a community violation because I put the swimsuit on and I'm telling you why I love it, and I've tagged the product so people can shop it on TikTok, but then they give me a violation and remove the video. So for that reason, I truly do not like using TikTok. I don't think it's fair. I don't think the community violations are fair whatsoever because, again, there are so many accounts where girls and women, and this is no judgment whatsoever, your videos go up fine and you are wearing less than what my bikinis cover, right? And you're also showing the back sometimes. I don't always really show the back because I know that most of my swimwear is minimal coverage. So usually I say, like, use your imagination for what the back looks like. Or I just don't even address it at all. But again, that's the main reason I hate TikTok. And it is hate. And I know that hate can be a strong word, but I don't think it's fair whatsoever, especially for me because I sell bikinis and I have them on my TikTok shop, but I can't seem to promote them wearing them myself because you give me violations and you remove my video before anyone can even see it. Okay, enough of that because I could go on for a while because it really annoys me. Let's go into an assumption on TikTok. If you post yourself dancing, you're quote unquote cringe unless you're a professional. I don't think that's true at all. I think it's fun, honestly. I do. I think it's really fun. I think it's funny. I think it's a way for people to express themselves. And maybe it's somebody who's really shy and wouldn't dance in public, but they find this more of like a safe space to dance on the internet, something like that. That's kind of where my brain jumps to. I don't think you're cringe. Apparently, there's an assumption if you post food, lifestyle videos, or get ready with me's, you're, quote, that girl, end quote, but you're broke behind the scenes. Well, that's not very nice. People are just posting their lifestyle and food and things like that. I don't know why that's an assumption. If you're over 30 on TikTok, people assume you're trying too hard. Well, that sounds like haters over 30 are sitting there watching TikTok. So that sounds like a you problem and not the person posting problem. So enough of that. Moving on to Twitter, also known as X. I will admit I have the Banana Diaries on Twitter, but I don't really do anything with it, mostly because I kind of forget about it and forget that it exists. Maybe I can try to start using it more, seeing we're talking about this. An assumption is if you tweet daily, you must love arguing with strangers. I don't think that really has to do with anything, to be honest. I mean, not in my usage of it anyway, because I still only follow accounts that I like. So most of the content that I see is from brands. I don't follow that many individuals on Twitter, so I'm not really sure that people love arguing with strangers. I mean, I feel like maybe strangers who love to argue with strangers do that. I need to share this meme, or this, I guess we could call it a video clip. I'm a big fan of the TV show What We Do in the Shadows. Like, it is a show that I discovered when I was going through a really, really hard time. And it will always be one of my favorite shows because it made me laugh. It still makes me laugh. I've rewatched all of the seasons, like, probably, I don't know, like 5 to 6 times each season. Like, I just keep rewatching it. I think it's so funny, and it is one of my comfort shows. So if you've seen it, there's a more insight right there to, I just said that like my Italian side's coming out. There's more insight into my sense of humor if you know the show. If you don't, watch it at your own risk. It is wild. But anyway, my point in bringing this up is there's a character, Colin Robinson, and there's a part of it, you have to watch the show to understand, he's an energy vampire, and there's a part where he's sitting in his room, which is in the basement, and he talks about how he loves like egging people on and writing mean comments and nasty comments on their social media. And then somebody started arguing with him, and then he got enraged because he was writing bad stuff and people were writing bad stuff back to him. But anyway, what I think to myself when someone writes something that's not very nice on social media is I just imagine that they are Colin Robinson sitting in their basement writing these things, and it makes me feel better. It makes me laugh, and it helps me to not be bothered by mean comments. So anyway, if you write something mean to me, I just picture you as Colin Robinson. So if you don't want to be pictured as Colin Robinson, don't write anything mean to me. So for some reason, another assumption on Twitter is you're online too much. Again, I don't use Twitter. I mean, do people scroll on Twitter the same way that they scroll on other social accounts? I mean, is the title doom scrolling solely for the main platforms of like Instagram or TikTok? I don't know. If you're a avid Twitter/X user, comment and share your kind thoughts on what people like to engage with on Twitter, because I don't know. But if you say something mean, that's not very nice, so don't you dare. Don't even think about it. As Jesse and I said, if you have nothing nice to say, don't say it at all. Apparently, another assumption is that screenshots of tweets on Instagram is that you want the validation but not the smoke. Sometimes I don't really know what some of these phrases mean. I don't know what that means about not the smoke. I'm not really sure. But I do see a lot of tweets that are screenshotted posted on Instagram. I do agree with that. I actually see that a lot. And sometimes I don't know if it was just edited that way to make it look like it was a post or if it really was a post that was screenshot. So anyway, we're just going to leave that one there because I'm not really sure. Moving on to Facebook. I don't really like Facebook. I think part of it is one of my main accounts is always directed towards a certain group of people that I used to engage with. And I just can't seem to ever get it to be geared anywhere else. And I don't like that. I wish I could get it geared towards the same people or the same accounts that I engage with on Instagram because that's what I love. Again, we went through an episode about, embracing change and learning from it. And I think that that's part of what I'm referring to here is that I really wish my Facebook would be more geared towards who I am now. But unfortunately, Facebook doesn't feel the same way. So I don't tend to use it that much because for me, it's not fun. It's just, I guess if I say the same old thing because it doesn't let me engage with a new audience. So that's kind of where I sit on Facebook. An assumption for Facebook is that you're over 40 or it's just your mom's playground. I think that there is like a general consensus that Facebook is for people who are older, for sure. But obviously, that's not completely the case. I do know plenty of younger people who talk about Facebook and how they do use it. So, yes, that's an assumption. Yeah, generation wise, Facebook was there, Facebook was popular. So, I think that people do still use it for sure. Again, personally, I don't really use it that much. Another assumption is if you're still active, you live for family drama and oversharing. Based on how I use it, not really, but I know that there are a lot of people who say that arguments start on Facebook or people share a lot of opinions on Facebook that tend to result in a lot of discussion, I guess we can say, in the comments. So, again, I think part of it also has a lot to do with how you perceive social media posts. So, what your perception of the current post is. If you see something and you immediately feel victimized by it, you know, that all comes down to what the post was about. And are you going to engage in it or are you just going to keep scrolling? I learned my lesson that if I accidentally tapped on something on Facebook, then all of a sudden, again, my account became all about that. And again, I don't use Facebook that much, but to my knowledge, there's no discover page or anything. So now we're talking that my feed has been covered in these posts that I accidentally tapped on and have nothing to do with me. So again, not really a Facebook person, but apparently these are assumptions on it. There's an assumption specifically about the marketplace. It says marketplace addiction is equal to being broke but resourceful. I could see how it goes towards resourceful because I did look on there for a few times when I was looking for something very specific and it was there, but it didn't end up working out. I guess that the marketplace could be something popular, especially if you're looking for something like incredibly specific. But again, I'm not really sure because I only did a few searches on it. And yes, I was curious, but not curious enough that I would want to meet strangers and buy something from them. This is where I stand on Facebook, I suppose. It seems like a lot of assumptions for Facebook are based on older generations. So if you're younger and you're on Facebook, comment. I mean, don't comment anything personal, but comment why you like it. That would be cool because I don't really like it. But I like to consider myself young. I actually kind of like to discuss this one. So this is LinkedIn. I will admit I am definitely newer to working on LinkedIn. It's okay. I say that it's okay because I don't know that I'll ever be someone who actually posts on it. I have mixed feelings about it. I don't think that LinkedIn is a fair assessment of someone's capabilities, of someone's previous work experience. I don't think LinkedIn is a fair assessment. That is coming from me as someone who has worn many different hats, as someone who is capable of thriving in a lot of different environments because I have. And again, I say that because I think the thought is that you have like one job title at the top, but personally, I feel like I've had so many. And I still actively work in a lot of these different titles. So for me, if you're an employer and you look at my profile, sorry, not sorry, but I don't really care if it bothers you that I have a lot of different titles at the top because I love that I'm able to do all of these things. And I am going to share it because if you ask me to pick just one, I'm not gonna pick just one. And I think that when I was briefly looking through some social media roles and different things like that, I don't know. I was just very kind of turned off by the idea of LinkedIn. My throat is getting really dry today, and I don't know why. Full disclosure, I dumped a can of Celsius inside my tumbler today because I told you I was crying earlier. And I tried my best not to drive to get a massive coffee. So I dumped my Celsius in a tumbler. I would say 99.9% of the time I have this tumbler, it probably has a can of Celsius in it. Again, not an ad, literally. I told you that I felt like this podcast was going to be a way that you could get to know me better. So that is why I'm sharing that. An assumption on LinkedIn is that you have a fake professional personality. I think on LinkedIn, maybe people are just trying to post something more professional and maybe their Instagram is for like their wild, unhinged, happy hour side. I'm not really sure. That's just my first thought on reading that assumption. Also, side note, I try not to really focus on these assumptions too much before every episode because I still want to have like initial thoughts and reactions to what they are. In terms of fake though, I did discover recently that there are like some AI profiles on there, which obviously would be considered fake. At least in my opinion, that's fake because you're AI, it's not real. So I did hear about that going on. So I could assume that that would be part of what's considered fake. People who post daily, they try hard or they're secretly unemployed. I mean, I think that people use LinkedIn as a way to showcase their expertise. So maybe they are unemployed and they're sharing some knowledge that they think will help other people. And I think it also just goes along with the idea that you never know who's watching when it comes to social media. So maybe these people are unemployed and maybe they're sharing this information and maybe a brand sees it and it's like, oh, we should hire this person. I mean, you honestly never know. So again, it goes back to me just like going with the idea that people post what they want to post. And to be honest, I don't think many people care what people think about it. If your job title sounds confusing, everyone assumes you don't actually work. Well, then I must confuse a lot of people, and a lot of people must think that I don't actually work. And I'm not really sure. I'm under the impression you should have like one title. That's why I said what I said before, because that's the impression that LinkedIn gives me. I don't know. I think you need to write down your title as what you feel like it is. Let's move in to Snapchat. I will be honest, I have an account, but I don't use it. I got annoyed when I opened the account and it started pulling in people from my past and pulling in people from my contact list, even though I told it not to import my contacts. So that kind of turned me off because I did not want to be connecting with these people anymore. So I will say that I signed up and then kind of stopped from there because I got annoyed. An assumption on Snapchat is that you're cheating, being sneaky, or you're stuck in high school. I mean, I think a lot of people who are using it are in high school, at least based on some interactions I've recently had with younger people who I interact with in my life. They are constantly Snapchatting, but I also know some adults who use it who are some friends of mine because they think that like the silly filters are just really funny. I also know that some people that I know who are parents, they use the filters to make their kids laugh and just have fun with it. So again, that could be your assumption. Unfortunately, if that's true because someone's cheating, I'm sorry. That's not cool of them. Um I don't know though. Like cheating on Snapchat? I don't know. Anyway, I won't share all my thoughts on that because that's not what today's episode is about. I'll stay focused. Another assumption is if you're 25 plus and you're posting streaks, it's a red flag. Do whatever you want to do, is what I have a theory on that for. I know I said I didn't love TikTok and I totally failed at this streak that I'm going to reference to, but there was something about like you could hatch like a little cute little egg or something with one of your friends if you had a streak. So I had sent it actually to Jesse from last week, and I epically failed at maintaining the streak to be able to hatch our little pet. So if you think that me wanting to hatch a pet with my best friend is a red flag, then that's not my problem. Sounds like a you problem. But again, I think people are just having fun. So if they want to have a streak on Snapchat or whatever app they're having a streak on, whatever. I think I mentioned this too, like talking about emojis last week. There are some things that maybe just don't take them so seriously. And again, maybe easier said than done. This is just my perspective on it. The last platform we're going to talk about today is Pinterest, or as someone in my life calls it, Pininterest. We try to get her to pronounce it correctly, but she always says Pininterest. I like using it. I want to use it more than I do. I'm going to put it that way. I do like Pinterest. I like that I can post stuff and I can directly link it. That is something that I like, is that I feel it's easily accessible to get to the link that I'm trying to show you. So I do really like that. I feel like it makes shopping a lot easier and sharing some of my favorite styles and pieces with you a lot easier than some of the other platforms do. So I think one of my goals is actually to use Pinterest more. If you're a Pinterest person, comment below and write what you love about Pinterest. Actually, let's just say that for all the platforms. Just write what you love about them, because I'm honestly curious and I feel like maybe we can learn some different ways from each other about maybe some features on the platforms that we didn't know existed that are maybe like really cool. So if you're watching this video, you can see I'm getting excited saying that. An assumption about Pinterest is that you're planning a wedding you're not even engaged for. I mean, the whole point of Pinterest is that it's basically a mood board. I mean, that's always been my impression, is that it's a mood board. I don't think you need to personally be going through these things to be sharing them. I share things like gowns sometimes because I think they're really pretty. I don't currently have any events I'm going to wear them to, but maybe you do. So I'm going to share it because I think it's super pretty and maybe you do too. So again, I think my thought is that Pinterest is a massive mood board, and whether I'm looking for inspiration or maybe an idea for something, I tend to go to Pinterest. And then I feel like it's this fun little rabbit hole that I go down where I keep finding relatable pins. And I like it. I think it's fun. And one thing that I will say is that for me, Pinterest has always been a very positive space. I have not found, and I don't want to find a negative space on Pinterest, because mine, at least for what I type in and things that I look for, it's very positive, it's very happy, it's very uplifting, and I love that. I don't need to be worried about going on my Pinterest and finding like a bunch of really sad and depressing news posts that I didn't want to see in the first place. That is the case on Facebook, which is also why I really don't like it, because I don't want this random post coming up that I did not want to see that has nothing to do with what I usually scroll with. And Facebook is very random for me. So, anyway, back to Pinterest. Another assumption is that pinning quotes equals therapy. If it is, okay. If pinning quotes makes you feel good, there's nothing wrong with that. And there's nothing wrong with therapy either. So I'm not really sure what that assumption is trying to refer to. But again, I think that you do you. Use social media for what you like to use social media for in a positive aspect. There's by no means twist my words and make that turn into anything else. I believe social media can be used in a very positive way. I'm a big believer in that because I use it in a very positive way. So I know that it's possible to use social media in a positive way. So when you're using social media, I think that there is a way that all of these platforms can be used in a positive manner, even some that we did not specifically discuss today. So again, to each their own, but if you want to pin quotes because it makes you feel good, pin those quotes. We're wrapping up today's episode, and I want to talk about one main takeaway, being that no matter what you post, there are people out there who are going to think that they know everything about you. There are people who are going to make assumptions about you, regardless of what you meant by the post, regardless of what the post actually was. So at the end of the day, you need to post what you want to post because you wanted to post it. What people think about it and what someone's perception of the post is completely on them. It has nothing to do with you. So I think at the end of the day, you just need to post what you're happy with. And for me, that's that. There are so many times in the past where I would post something and someone else who saw it would go to one of my friends and be like, "Is she okay?" First of all, why don't you just ask me directly if you're really that concerned? You're obviously not that concerned. Two, like, don't take it so seriously. It's a social media post that I put up. If you are genuinely concerned about someone, reach out to them. Okay? Like, by no means just me saying, like, don't take it seriously, diminish anything about that. If you're genuinely concerned about someone and what they posted, reach out to them and make sure they're okay. But again, from my perspective, for what I'm talking about right now, don't take my post so seriously. If you feel personally victimized by something that I posted, think about why maybe you feel that way. But I can assure you, it was not directed at you. It was not directed at anyone. It was something that I simply shared. And that's where I stand on takeaways from this episode is don't take it personal if people assume that they know everything about you based on what you post. You know what people know. You know who you are. And at the end of the day, trust in that and that you know who you are and that you love yourself. And if you don't love yourself, try to work on it, even if it's just a little something every day, whether it's talking nicer to yourself or being grateful for things you've accomplished, celebrating a little win. I finished painting something the other day. Well, not finished, there's still more to do, but I finished a whole chunk of probably the hardest part. So I took myself to Starbucks for a little sweet treat, okay? So again, small wins, praise yourself when praise is due, and try to love yourself a little bit more every day, regardless of what anybody has to say. Also, side note, I totally have an idea for a reel that I will be posting soon. and I'll post it on here on spttog podcast on Instagram, so you'll know what I'm talking about when I post it. I really wanted to have fun with next week's episode. If I had planned it better, it really could have been episode number 13, but it's not. It's going to be episode number 14. It is pumpkins, parties, and assumptions. And we're going to go through some silly and fun assumptions related to Halloween. So, whether you are searching for fall activities to do, or you just ordered a very daring Halloween costume on the internet, we're going to tackle some wild, spooky, and fun assumptions all related to Halloween. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, I'm excited. I said before that I was going to look up some synonyms for excited, but I changed my mind because I am excited that you're here, and I feel like that word is just me. So I'm excited you're here to listen. Follow along, tune in on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon, and iHeartRadio. I will chat with you next week, and I cannot wait.